My name is Paul Lai. I'm 65 years old this year. Last year April, I went to the polyclinic because I suddenly had constipation, which is very shocking because I used to have regular soft stool diet every day, every morning. So when I actually discovered blood on the tissue paper as I was cleaning myself after passing motion. At first I thought it's just bleeding piles, but it happened the second day, and so I thought that's very unusual. Constipate for 2 days in a row when I've used to, for years I've been having regular soft stools every morning. So I went to the polyclinic and I told the doctor, all right, I said, look, I know that a sudden change of bowel movement is a negative sign, it's a bad sign, it could be a sign of cancer. And I said, on top of that, my brother's brother just died about 3 months ago from also intestinal cancer. And my own younger sister she's still undergoing chemotherapy for breast cancer after surgery. So, of course, at that time, I didn't know. If I knew, I would have told him that my own father had liver cancer before he died. So I told him all these concerns, and then he said, let me check you first. He checked and he said, I think it's bleeding piles, the hemorrhoids is bleeding. Anyway, I write you a referral. So he asked me to choose, so I chose SGH, Singapore General Hospital. So he wrote the appointment for me to go to the colorectal surgery at SGH on May the 4th. But God was very merciful because for the next 2 days, I discovered blood again. And I was so disturbed in my heart, I told my wife, I think I'll just go straight to the A&E of SGH to check it out. And so I went. The A&E doctor checked me out and said that, well, he suspects is bleeding piles. But he said, since you are here, I'll call into the colorectal surgery department and arrange for you to go in and let them check you. And so I went. And the young Indian doctor in the colorectal surgery department, he was not in a good mood that morning. So anyway, I told him the situation. He said, let me check you. And then he put a short scope inside my anus. And then he came away and said, I'm quite very sure there is bleeding piles because I saw redness in that area. Anyway, I write you an appointment for colonoscopy. Well, that day was May the 4th. Okay, he gave me an appointment of colonoscopy on the 19th of May last year. But you see, the thing is, if I had not gone to the A&E and all that, I would have gone to this colorectal surgery department on the 19th for my appointment. My actual appointment is 19th. And he will schedule me 2 weeks later for the actual colonoscopy. So the colonoscopy showed and confirmed that I had colon cancer. And when I heard that, I was not shocked because at the back of my mind, I realized, God has worked in such a way that my cancer is detected earlier. You see, because I myself also thought it was bleeding piles. And when I realized that, I was not fearful at all. I said, okay, I go through with the surgery. The surgery was scheduled 2 weeks later. And because I realized that this is early detection, God must be wanting to heal me. That's why He wanted me to discover earlier, you see. Well, cut a long story short, I went through the surgery. And when I went back 2 weeks later, the surgeon said, okay, you need to see the oncologist to schedule for chemotherapy because you are stage 3 cancer. She said, you must go through chemotherapy. Well, I told him in so many words, I said, well, I don't have much confidence in chemotherapy because I read enough to know that it's poison they are putting in my body to treat my cancer. So I told this surgeon, I said, well, I prefer alternative therapy. He said, what alternative therapy? Well, I said, I've started drinking this alkaline water. I didn't go into details, but when he got alkaline water, he said, Paul, let me tell you something. That's all nonsense. If you can treat cancer so simply by alkaline water, then I've wasted all my medical education, all my experience, all my training. Anyway, he was getting worked up, so I didn't want to argue with him. I said, okay, I'll see the oncologist. 2 weeks later, I saw the oncologist, and I asked him, I said, is chemotherapy poison? You're trying to put poison in me to treat my cancer. He was stunned when I asked a question like this, but he has to admit and say, yes, it's poison. But he said, the poison may save your life. I wasn't convinced, but in my heart, I know what would happen in the consequences of chemotherapy is terrible, terrible suffering you go through. But I told him, I said, I'll give you an answer, by making an appointment if I want. But in my heart, I decided I'm not going to want chemotherapy because I know how people suffer from chemotherapy. But it's not just because of that. I knew that what this Kangen water can do, what it's all about. I already read enough that cancer can only survive in acidic medium. But Kangen water is the kind of water that will alkalize my body. And if it become alkalized, the cancer cells will die. On top of that, I also know that cancer cells feed on sugar. So I decided I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to cut out white sugar, white flour, white salt and all that. Okay? And I also knew about Dr. Shinya's diet. 80% vegetables and fruits and the proper kind of flour, the proper kind of rice, unpolished rice and brown rice. And just 20% meat. So when I went home, I was very serious to drink my Kangen water because I believe it will work for me. So to cut a whole long story short, I started drinking very, very seriously. All right, I think I averaged for the start, I averaged about 2 liters to 3 liters a day. Of course, as the months roll by, I drank more, minimum 3 liters. So every 3 months, I have to go back to have a blood test. And I'm very grateful. The doctor say if my cancer marker is 5 and below, I'm very safe. But every 3 months when I went for this cancer marker test, the reading is below 1, 0.5, 0.7, 0.6. And throughout the whole year, it remained below 1. And what happened was, last month I went for my colonoscopy. After 1 year, the review. But before that, I went for the CT scan to scan my pelvic and abdominal region. Okay, and when I went for a colonoscopy, I told the doctor I want to see on the video what's inside, and I was so shocked and very gladly surprised because I saw my own colon and rectum. It's not only clean, but it's pinkish and fresh looking, like a baby's skin when the baby is born, pinkish fresh. And I was so surprised because I've seen this kind of healthy colon and rectum before. I think on Shinya's website, he showed a healthy colon and disease, dirty colon. And I was so surprised. I said, thank God that I knew about Kangen water. I was spared of chemotherapy and all the suffering. And now my colon is so clean and healthy. Well, the best part was after the colonoscopy, the doctor turned to me and said, Paul, your CT scan is all clear and your colonoscopy showed that you are all clear, no cancer. And then he added, I guess you make the right decision not to have chemotherapy.
That was the oncologist?
No, that was the surgeon who did the colonoscopy.
But you didn't go back to the oncologist?
I didn't go because I didn't want chemo. See?
Ask him to eat his words.
Anyway, I don't think it's necessary. Okay. So anyway, I'm very grateful that God used Kangen water, a change of diet, a basic healthy lifestyle to save me from cancer.